Now, the NGX All-Share Index recorded a 6.1% again in the third quarter of the year. As the fourth quarter takes shape, investors are looking forward to the release of the 9-month earnings. But will that be enough to sustain the momentum for the third quarter? For the fourth quarter, Rotimi Fakayejo, a capital market analyst, joins me now to discuss what the outlook is for the fourth quarter of the year. Thank you so much for your time on the show today, Rotimi. Before we get into what your outlook is, I'd like to get a sense of what we're seeing playing out in the markets today. What's the sentiment from investors today?
Well, I think we look at what actually happened in the market. You see that the banking sector stocks actually moved the market today, and they're boosted by Airtel Africa, which gained about 6% or 7% thereabouts. And I think with what we have seen today, the momentum gathered towards the end of September, and we are seeing a furtherance of that in the early months, in the early days of October, even vis-a-vis the expectation of the third quarter results. So I believe strongly that now that the year-to-date position of the All-Share Index has turned positive, and going forward, I think that may really be sustained.
But let's get into what we're seeing playing out from that news flow from Airtel Africa. Yes, we're seeing the market responding positively to that. But how do you think that momentum can be sustained in the long run?
Well, I think for me, from what we've seen of their figures, I think there is every likelihood that the figure will be sustained. We've seen it rise higher than this previously, and incidentally, we saw a backward trend or a downward trend thereafter. But I think with what we have seen today, the market, that stock is definitely going to be consolidated, and there will be kind of bargain hunts that we are seeing in the banking sector stocks. That also will be an added advantage to the momentum that we are seeing. But all in all, I think investors are confident that there won't be a lagging behind in any of the securities that at least be giving a good pass mark with respect to their fundamentals and the results they have churned out. So investors are positive about the coming release of the 9-month result and also ultimately the financial year end. So with this, I was telling somebody today that with this in mind, there's every likelihood that most of the securities that have good fundamentals, most of them will likely do a dividend yield of more than 10% vis-a-vis the current market price. So I think with a yield of about 10% in the next 4 months and BMD stage, I think it's quite a good one for investors to actually pump more money into the market and also retain what they have.
All right, let's also look back at what we saw play out in the third quarter. Two sectors I would like to talk about here, which is one, the oil and gas sector, which is did quite amazing in that third quarter, as well as the industrial goods stock. I'd like you to speak to what we saw play out for these stocks in the third quarter, and if we can see that replicated in the fourth quarter.
Well, I think for the third quarter, we saw a comeback for Wando. And we also saw quite a good movement for surplus. But we didn't see a corresponding movement in the price of 40 oil. Then we also saw a very good movement for Total Nigeria PLC. So I think by the time we see the third quarter results, I think these ones may be sustained. And for industrial goods, I think Dangote Cement, which is the leader in that particular sector, has really proved to be resilient and also to be promising in terms of better days to come ahead. There are still more volume being sold in that particular sector and a higher turnover, and the profitability too is not waning. So I think for these two sectors, they will definitely sustain the market. And for the complementary contributions coming from the banking sector stocks, I believe the index definitely will be worthwhile by the time the year closes.
Definitely a lot playing, especially in the oil and gas space when we're seeing Brent crude hovering around $83 today. But let's get into your expectations for the 9 months earnings, especially for the banks.
Well, I think we didn't really see it so good for about 2 or 3 of the banks, particularly GT Co and also Stanbic. But I think they might have overcome whatever had been. So if you look at the quarter, you do an analysis not quarter on quarter, but with corresponding quarter of the previous year. I think we'll be able to see better display of figures for them. But if you do it on by quarter on quarter, you may not really see much outstanding difference. So I think with the expectation for the banking sector stuff, I want to believe that Zenith will still be able to sustain. Access may do better than they did previously, and the likes of UBA. And we have seen something coming up for First Bank FBN Holdings today, and I think that also is a pointer that there's something good to expect in the results of First Bank FBN Holdings. So I think all in all, the market is actually awaiting a good laughter after seeing the third quarter results of most of the major content companies.
All right, Mr. Fakayejo, before I let you go, I just wanted to weigh in on this topic here. We're seeing that rise of fintechs in Nigeria. Quite a number of them have gained that unicorn status, and NGX is doing quite a lot to attract some of these players into the market there. How do you see this? Do any chance of seeing more fintechs play in the capital markets here in Nigeria?
Well, I think that really would be a good thing to start with. But I think the kind of apathy that people have towards public offer is still very much in the air. And I think what may really play out for them is if they start by doing listing by introduction, then consolidate all along the line for people to know more about them and all of that. But if they come straight on with a public offer, we may not really see much of a success for now. So I think they may have to go it steady, come in by introduction, and thereafter do a public offer that will make more people to get engaged with their stock. But I believe strongly that with the kind of performance we have seen and the future of the fintech, they definitely will be able to make a good wave in the market and add value.